We've been expecting an announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas for nearly 24 hours. It still has not happened, and both sides are still trading air attacks across the Gaza-Israel border.
And this morning, Israeli officials say a bomb went off on a bus in Tel Aviv. They're calling it a terrorist attack. At least 10 people were injured when the bus exploded on a main street near Israel's military headquarters. At this time, police don't know if it was a suicide bombing or if the bomb was planted on the bus. In
Gaza this morning, a Hamas spokesman said about the bus bombing, Hamas blesses the attack. Israeli forces attacked more targets in Gaza overnight. Charlie D'Agata is in Gaza City and had a very close encounter with one Israeli airstrike.
Israeli fighter jets had been passing over Gaza City all night, and we had these huge explosions. Just after 2 a.m., there was this massive blast just outside the hotel that blew in the windows of my room. I ran into the hall to make sure that our colleagues were okay. Nobody was injured inside that hotel, unlike the more than 100 people who've been killed and more than 1,000 wounded in this conflict. This is what it looked and sounded like when an Israeli airstrike pummeled an area just a block away from where we were staying. The force of the blast blew in the windows of the building. Journalists inside scrambled for cover. Nowhere is considered safe in Gaza City. It was one of a number of attacks that struck an area where a lot of foreign journalists are staying, covering this side of the conflict. It landed in a soccer field in a neighborhood of apartment buildings and hotels. It's just a close-up example of the barrage of attacks that have come by land, air, and sea, pounding this crowded strip. Last night was one of the worst yet in this week-long fight. Naval warships fired dozens of rounds into Gaza, and fighter jets kept their bombing runs up through dawn. The attacks were sustained and relentless. They leveled a city block where the Interior Ministry used to stand. The Israeli military said it was a command and control center for Hamas, which makes it a legitimate target, but civilians are dying. Palestinian officials told us the past 24 hours have been the bloodiest yet in terms of civilian casualties. More than 140 people have been killed and more than 1,000 wounded so far. It's hard to believe the tensions could get any higher here, but we have heard about the explosion in Tel Aviv. Everybody here is worried. Shortly after Israeli fighter jets flew overhead, there were more airstrikes here, and everybody is concerned about more retaliation attacks to come. For CBS This Morning, I'm Charlie D'Agata in Gaza City.